Oh, well, there were a lot of inspirations. She's so multi-layered, but the biggest one would have to be my parents. They're Vietnamese refugees, and they had an incredible journey getting to the United States, and my character, Ngoc Land's journey, is, a refraction of that. They're such warm people, Alexander and Matt and Jim Taylor, our writer, executive producer. It was a really great set to come to work to every morning. I just remembered, Matt and I are really bad at not cracking, so once we start giggling, it's all over. It's so unprofessional. I hope the heart and the comedy, it's such a rare combination, and it's hard to get it right. So I think Alexander Payne got it right, and it's a good movie for this time of year, For me, I left thinking like my heart just felt really full and full of love for my fellow man, and I left thinking wow, what can I do to be better? I mean, I'm not a bad person, but what can I do to be better? And that's a nice sentiment to sort of meditate on as we head into the new year.
There's Matt Damon, who's, of course, spectacular, but Chau is somebody that is a huge discovery for us and hopefully for the world, and she is, we could really, people say it all the time, we couldn't have made this movie but we really couldn't have made a movie without her, and she's spectacular, and there's so many funny, great people, and from Jason Sudeikis to Neil Patrick Harris to Niecy Nash to Laura Dern, and it's fun. It's like one of those old disaster movies we should put all their faces around the outside.
Well, the main reason I wanted to make it is because of Alexander Payne and Matt Damon and a bunch of other really talented people. But I think, first of all, the script really made me laugh, and it's about something. It's not just a silly. It's a comedy and very funny, but it really takes place in a world that's very possible, I think. And there's nothing like it. One of the things we always decry in Hollywood is originality. Where is it? And there's nothing quite like this movie. It's a holiday movie because, again, it's a really enjoyable movie, and it's a smart movie, and it is about something, and it's something you can sink your teeth into and still have a great time.
The movie follows my character, and he's this guy who basically has a really decent heart. He's a good man who is extraordinarily naive and kind of wakes up to the world kind of through the course of the movie and through this kind of incredible journey that he goes on, and he ends up 5 inches tall and with a better perspective on his fellow human beings, and it's just I love it. As I was saying to you before, I wouldn't change a frame of it. I'm really happy with it. Alexander Payne, the director, all of his movies are really funny, but have this element of tragedy also, and he just makes these beautiful movies about the human experience, basically, and that's, I've loved every single one of his movies, so when he came to me with this one, I felt really lucky that I made his list. It's a really optimistic movie, ultimately, and it's about being good to one another, and the little kindnesses that we show each other that actually bind us and are really at the kind of the foundation of the human experience. And I think that's kind of what the holidays are about. So hopefully we're putting it out at the right time.
It's so interesting because I watched the movie with some friends initially, and that's what I kept turning to them and saying, would you do it? Would you do it? And everyone went from absolutely not to halfway through the movie, maybe I would consider it, to, wow, that was a great movie. I don't even know how I'd answer the question. So I like my house right now, and if I had to downsize, I'd have to downsize my whole family, and I wouldn't want to be making decisions for lots of other people. So I probably would not, but I certainly value the idea behind it. I think people forget that Downsizing is an Alexander Payne film. And then when they remember all the other movies that he's done and how he'll take a simple-ish conceit and really mine it for complexity and for humanity, then I think it changes the conversation. Because I feel that people who come to see this movie expecting it to be funny, get really blindsided by a conversation that's very relevant right now, about what happens when we're a class divided, when financial limitations can actually become freedoms, but then what happens after that. And so I think that's kind of exciting, the idea that people can come and see this movie thinking it's one thing and then be sort of overwhelmed by a internal conversation. That's kind of why we make art, right? It's right before the Christmas season. It's kind of an everyman story. I feel like Downsizing speaks to flyover states as much as it speaks to New York or LA or someplace like that. It's certainly an interesting conversation, regardless of your situation. And in fact, if you're in dire situation, financially or struggling with identity or how you want to be seen, it's an even more interesting conversation. So Alexander has created a movie that I think is oddly for everyone.